Meeting, please stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
John Baisley, First Ward.
Bill Carlos, Second Ward.
Joe Conti, Third Ward.
Michael Safone, Fourth Ward.
Joe Lepore, Fifth Ward.
Ann Schurshin, Sixth Ward.
Todd Tancredi, Supervisor.
Felicia Salvatore, Town Clerk.
And our town attorney will be here momentarily. We don't have a very long agenda tonight, but what I'd like to do first is, while we're all here, and sometimes it's just easier, we're going to swear in our new deputy supervisor. So our town clerk has his oath of office, and Mr. Baisley, if you'd step right up, we'll get that done. You want to use the cordless mic? Want me to hold it? You got it?
Raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New
and the
York,
Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully
the
discharge
duties of
the duties of
the office
the
of
office of
Deputy Supervisor according to the best of my ability.
Deputy Supervisor according to my ability. Help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Jay.
Free coffee for everybody.
All right. That'll get the formalities out of the way. I'm going to run through the agenda items, and then we'll take questions on agenda items. Item number 1 is to accept the retirement of our police chief. 2 is to authorize Town of Poughkeepsie Little League Parade. This is for the northern half of the town. 3 is to authorize Vassar College Founders Day fireworks. 4 is to amend appointment of the emergency interim successors. 5 is to set the date for a public hearing to amend Town Code ATC drive-through overlay. 6 is to reappoint 2 members of our Historic Preservation Commission. 7 is to set the date for a public hearing to amend Town Code Vehicle and Traffic. That's in Councilman Carlos's ward. 8 is to award a contract for a new pavilion down at Greenvale Park. We talked about that a few weeks ago. 9, and then we have some special consent items, which is number 9. Special consent number 1 is the set the date for public hearing for the annual stormwater report. SC2 is to authorize supervisor to sign intermunicipal agreement with the city. This is related to the Dutton project and the walking path that they're going to construct down there. SC3 is to authorize supervisor to sign consent to a sales tax exemption that the Holiday Inn Express is going to ask for from IDA or EDC related to some improvements they're making on site. SC4 is notification of a legal matter, and 5 is notification of a liquor license renewal for Juan Murphy's on Main Street. So I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for public comment on agenda items.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone who would like to address the board? Doreen?
Yes, regarding these special consent items, again, I don't believe that those special consent items were posted online as part of the package for the town board's meeting tonight. And it is easier to have those posted so that you can see exactly what you'll be voting on. So again, I think that would be helpful. So I have a question about special consent item number 2, intermunicipal agreement with the city. And you just said that was for Dutton, for the walking path. That's supposed.
Yes.
Is that so? Can you elaborate a little on what that is?
It's an agreement with the city. Dutton is before the city right now. They haven't been approved by the town. We don't have anything in front of us at this point. But the city's indicated as part of their approval they'd like to go forward the walking path that's been discussed. It's called a park, and I think that's going to be how it's designated. But it's nothing more than a walking path that runs the length of the property. And this is the piece that the state owns. So this is an intermunicipal agreement that basically says the city's gonna be responsible to maintain it, to, police it as much as practical, and it's an agreement that we're gonna have in place so that even if they don't ever build in the town or end up doing our piece, the walking path will still be constructed.
Yeah, we're held harmless from anything as well, so.
Okay, well, my concern is that that strip has not been cleaned up, and because, again, that's part that the state owns, and Dutton O'Neill Group was supposed to clean it up after they acquired it from the state. So what about the fact that it's not cleaned up yet? Does that make any difference to you, to the town board? 'Cause,
I
that's-
don't know anything about that. I mean, again, I don't know if Neil or Jim has any information on it. This is simply an intermunicipal agreement. We're not giving them approval to build in the town's piece.
Right.
This is, I guess to allow the city to have a walking path that runs the length of their property and the front of what is the town's piece to the Vassar College. I think it's the Vassar College Boathouse, so.
Right, but I guess my concern is the fact that that strip is a contaminated piece of land and that it does need to be cleaned up. And if you agree to some intermunicipal agreement, I mean, I don't know.
Jim, is there any reason for us to be concerned as far as you're concerned?
I wasn't aware of the condition of the property, and my assumption is that the city is going to eventually end up with title to this from the developer, that the city is going to be careful for its own reasons to make sure that it doesn't take title to something that is contaminated, or if it does, that it's got an exemption someplace under the federal environmental protection laws.
Right now, the state owns it, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the exact boundary is, but the request by the applicant to the state was to take title to lands west, I think, of the mean high water mark.
Well-
Which is, the answer is yes, I believe. Pardon
Okay.
me.
Because if I could just read something, I did contact the DEC, and they said the strip of land along the shoreline that was part of the former lumber yard does require cleanup. This strip of land was removed from the site because the O'Neill Dutton Group learned that it was owned by the state of New York. They are in the process of acquiring it from the New York State Office of General Services and plan to apply for the Brownfield Cleanup Program to perform the cleanup. And so then I asked, has the cleanup plan for that strip been formulated? And they said, well, an updated plan for the strip of land will be developed after it is acquired by O'Neill Dutton. So just so you know, that strip of land is contaminated. As of the time of this correspondence with the DEC, they had not acquired it. O'Neill Dutton had not acquired it. And after they did, then there's going to need to be an updated plan for that strip of land to remove the contamination. So just so you're aware of that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the way this resolution is worded is that it authorizes the supervisor to go ahead with the IMA, but subject to alterations that are required for planning and development purposes after consultation with Mr. Wilson, as well as with the Chief of Police for Public Safety. So this is an issue that you would be, under this resolution, licensed to address after consulting with me.
You know, and here's has been my problem with this all along, is that I don't have any issue. This is not the town's development. They are not before the town of Poughkeepsie. This is to allow the city to extend this walking path. So this, let me make myself perfectly clear and say it for probably the fifth time. This is not an approval for Dutton Lumber to build anything on this land that's in the town of Poughkeepsie. They don't even have an application before us at this point. I mean, there was an old one, but we have not approved that plan. Mm-hmm. Last time they were on our agenda, Lou Kaufman sent me an email, which I can pull up, and asked me to remove them from our agenda until they have things worked out with the city. So when and if that happens, I have no idea. I've made Mr. Kaufman aware that I don't know how this board will vote on this project when he does come before the town of Poughkeepsie. I think my exact words were to him, as far as I'm concerned, it's 50-50. you're gonna have to come in and kind of make the pitch. This thing's extended for years, literally. So this isn't an approval to build. I mean, it's simply this, we've told them on our piece, the only thing we want is a walking path. We don't want, a playground, a swing set, jungle gym. At the most, this will be a walking path, and I don't even know if it's gonna be a blacktop path or just
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that you knew that that strip of land
Well-
needed to be cleaned up, and it hadn't yet before you entered into agreement. So
Well-
if you're comfortable with, and
But what I
Mr.
would
Nelson-
encourage you to do
So-
is, I don't know if you've been, sent the city any correspondence or if that's a concern, but I don't know if the city's aware that hasn't been cleaned up. But they're, I think, getting ready to approve this project, so that may be something they're interested in. I don't know.
And Doreen, too, just to interrupt, sorry. The SCs were online, but I didn't get them till almost 2:45. So after
Okay.
we talked, I got
Yeah,
them
I
shortly
probably
after.
checked around, I don't know, late this afternoon.
Yeah, because it had to be before Mary left at 4, because she sent me a second
Yeah,
email.
it could have been around 3,
Yeah.
whatever, but again, it would be nice to have those, just have a little more.
Yeah, I
And
understand.
then the only other question is, so the consent to the tax exemption, SC3 Holiday Inn Express, so they're asking for a tax break, and then it'll just be
Sure.
divided up among town residents to,
No,
Or
what
no
they're,
county?
what
Okay.
they're gonna ask for is an exemption on sales tax on the cost of materials and/or labor
Okay.
for these improvements. Holiday Inn Express has, talked, I guess, to either the IDA or EDC, one of those organizations, and basically said, we'd like this sales tax break on our improvements. And they have to make renovations to the hotel in order to keep their flagship name, Holiday Inn Express. So the county, through one of these agencies, said to Holiday Inn Express, no problem, but we want to make sure if we give it to you, the town's not going to, they hadn't even spoken to us. So they contacted, myself and said, this is what we're going to do through one of these, I don't know, I guess it's the IDA. We'd like a sales tax break just on the improvement, the material and supplies for the improvement, the renovations. So
okay, so it's just a county sales tax?
yeah, we're basically saying what this says, we have no objection. We feel that we'll get more in building permit fees and things like that than we will by the time the sales tax is divvied up among everybody.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? All right, see no one, I make a motion to resume the rules.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Jay?
Be resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept, with regret, the retirement of Thomas Morrow as Chief of Police of Town of Poughkeepsie, effective May 30th, 2015. So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
Yes, every once in a while, a business as usual document comes across this desk, and your elected representatives move on it, and history moves on. This particular topic, I think, the retirement of Chief Morrow needs to have a little bit more than that. So please indulge me for a second here. On Wednesday, August 25th, 1976, Tom Morrow started his career in the Town of Poughkeepsie Police Department. Friday, May 29th, will be his last day here as Chief of Police. His professional law enforcement career, which spanned 40 years, ends. Tom served in the police department as a police officer, a detective in the Juvenile Aid Division, a detective in the Detective Division, a police sergeant in the Patrol Division, a detective sergeant, a police lieutenant, a police captain, and as Chief of Police. The salary of a police officer in 1976 was about $11,000 a year. I know, I was there. Tom didn't take the position here because of the money or the benefits. He wanted to help people, and so he has for 40 years. The last 8 as Chief of Police. Being a Chief of Police isn't like any other position in a police department. When you start out as a police officer, you're responsible for your own safety. Promotion to sergeant means you're responsible for the safety of the squad of men and women who work with you. Promotion to lieutenant means you're responsible for a whole shift, everything that happens on that shift. Promotion to captain means you're responsible for a division. Detective Division, Patrol Division. That last promotion to Chief of Police changes everything. You are now responsible for every man and woman and everything in the police department. Unlike all the subordinate ranks, The chief's responsibility doesn't end when a shift does. The chief is responsible for all of the people, all of the time. There are no days off from that responsibility. You have it all the time. You find yourself second-guessing yourself. Do we have enough police officers? Did we train them to the highest level that we can? Do they have the best equipment we can get for them? Do they have the best bulletproof vests? What new risk do they face now, and what can I do to mitigate it? And this is one of the ones that haunts you. Did I do all I can do to protect them and get them home to their families after their shift? That last part, that's unique to the position of Chief of Police, and it's in your soul the whole time you're in that position. We congratulate Chief Morrow on his retirement and say thank you for your service. You have protected them. You've protected our town, the people that live here, our families, our businesses, our children, our homes, for all of your professional life. Saturday, May 30th, you pass that terrible responsibility on to the next Chief of Police. You can finally rest. Our best wishes are with you and your family. Thank you, Tom, for 40 years of service.
What else?
I was going to say the same thing. It's funny how he,
How we wrap that all up.
it's, and I think we all don't like to see anybody retire, but you're losing the head of a department such as this. It can be scary ground, but I do know we have some guys some people that will fill. The shoe will look at him very carefully, but I know we're going to have somebody who's groomed for that position, and it should be a good transition. But yeah, he was a very good person to work with for the years that I've been able to work with him.
Yeah.
He was easygoing. I called him home on a number of occasions, and he took care of any problems that I had. And I didn't have to call him that many times at home because our police department is very good at what they do. But on a couple occasions I did, and he accepted the call. He didn't put me on hold, and he took care of it. So he's going to be missed. He's trained our staff very well. He's worked with us on our budgets very well. You can't ask for more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Wish him well.
Yeah, I agree. I wish you were here tonight, but we're going to make sure we get him here prior to his retirement and, give him the accolades he deserves because he does deserve it. He's been an outstanding chief and outstanding, team member of this team we have in the town of Poughkeepsie. So we appreciate all that he's done. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie has heretofore received an application from Brian Conti on behalf of the Town of Poughkeepsie Little League to hold its opening day parade on April 18, 2015 at 9 a.m., which parade route is noted in the attached documentation, and whereas a certificate of liability insurance has been filed with the town clerk naming the Town of Poughkeepsie as an additional insured, now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the application for said opening day parade as submitted. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Name sounds familiar to me. I don't know who
Great
this
guy.
is.
Great guy. Not a good hitter, but a great pitcher.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie has heretofore received an application from Vassar College to include a fireworks display at its Founders Day weekend event to be held on Saturday, May 9th, 2015, with a rain date of Sunday, May 10th, 2015. And whereas the application has notified the local fire department, and whereas a certificate of liability insurance has been filed with the town clerk naming the Town of Poughkeepsie as an additional insured. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the application as submitted for a fireworks display to be held on Saturday, May 9th, 2015, with a rain date of Sunday, May 10th, 2015 at 9 p.m. on Vassar College property, Raymond Avenue, Poughkeepsie, New York. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be resolved, the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby amend Resolution 1.7, number 12 of 2015 regarding the appointment of the town's emergency interim successors as requested by the Dutchess County Department of Emergency Response. Be it further resolved that the said amendment to the emergency interim successors is as follows. It's specifying the individual's rank in order of succession as listed. 1, Jay Baisley, 2, Mark Pfeiffer, 3, Michael Safone. Be it further resolved, the supervisor is hereby authorized, empowered, and directed to execute the emergency interim successor designation form, which is attached here too, to be returned to the Dutchess County Department of Emergency Response. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Joe?
Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does reappoint Sarah Johnson to the Town of Poughkeepsie Historic Preservation Commission for 5-year
I think we're on number 5.
That's all right. Let him.
Okay.
Let him read through.
Go ahead, go ahead,
Okay.
Joe.
Okay.
And then I'll do
Go
it.
ahead.
Okay.
Don't
Don't worry about it. Keep going.
April 20, 2015 through April 19 to 2020. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, Sarah's doing a really wonderful job. She's the secretary for the Historic Preservation Commission. She's one of the best secretaries I've ever seen, and I'm thrilled she's agreed to do another 5 years. So,
Good.
yeah. Yes.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
So you might as well do B.
Ann?
I'll do B.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'll do 5.
Okay, sure.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does reappoint Robert Rubin to the Town of Poughkeepsie Historic Preservation Commission for 5-year term from April 20th, 2015 through April 19, 2020. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, and this is Resolution 5. Whereas the Town Board has received communication from the Director of Municipal Development recommending amendments to Chapter 210 entitled Zoning, specifying Section 210.22 pertaining to the Arlington Town Center, ATC District, adding a new zoning overlay district and regulations entitled Main Street Drive-In Overlay District, MSDOD, and whereas the proposed amendments are attached hereto and incorporated herein, and the Town Board does hereby waive a verbatim reading of said amendments, and does direct that said amendments be spread across the record as if they, in fact, have been read verbatim, and whereas the action to amend the zoning law is an unlisted action under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and whereas the Town Board has determined that the proposed amendment must be referred to Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development and to the Town Planning Board for review and recommendation, and whereas the amendment require a public hearing, now therefore be resolved. 1, the Town Board hereby states that because only the Town Board can consider and adopt changes to the Town Code, that it is only involved agency, and the board hereby declares that it is the lead agency for purpose of coordinating the environmental review of this matter pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law, and 2, the Town Board hereby sets a public hearing on the proposed amendments for May 20th, 2015 at 7 p.m., or as soon thereafter as the matter can come to be heard in the Town Hall, 1 over Rock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, and 3, the Town Board refers this matter to Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development for recommendation pursuant to GML 239M, and 4, the Town Board refers this matter to the Planning Board for advisory report pursuant to Town Code Sections 210-154. 5, the Town Board directs the Town Clerk to notify the Town Clerks of each of the surrounding municipality of the public hearing pursuant to GML 239NN. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, we have some new businesses that are interested in coming into Main Street, and it would be very helpful for them to be allowed to have drive-throughs. And in considerations that Main Street and also the 4455 corridor, there aren't as many people who walk on those sidewalks and those streets as in Raymond and College View and LaGrange. Those are, and also the buildings are packed much more densely there, where you definitely don't want to have drive-throughs. But it makes sense to have drive-throughs available to the businesses on Main Street, especially if it helps bring in new businesses. Sure. It's going to generate some new interest. And right now, there's a big push, and the Arlington Business Improvement District is pursuing a grant to help improve the appearance of Main Street and try to generate some new interests, some new businesses, and bring in new customers.
Sounds great.
All right. Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. All right, number 7. Be it resolved that the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby set the 6th day of May, 2015 at 7 p.m. at Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Overrock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, as and for the time, date, and place of a public hearing to consider an amendment to the Town Code Chapter 195 entitled Vehicles and Traffic, specifically Section 195-41, Schedule 6, entitled Prohibited Turns at Intersections, which would add the following underlined language to Section 195-41, Schedule 6, Prohibited Turns at Intersections, specifically as follows. Name of street, Malmrose Terrace, direction of travel southeast, prohibited turn left, hours all, at intersection of Vassar Road except Wappinger Central School buses. And name of street, Raleigh Road, direction of travel southeast, prohibited turn left, hours all, at intersection of Vassar Road, and again, except Wappinger Central School buses. This is to be suspended effective May 7, 2015, until receipt of New York State DOT confirmation that Spring Road has been reopened to regular traffic. Be it further resolved that the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby determine that this action is a Type 2 action requiring no environmental review, and be it further resolved that, if adopted, said local law shall become effective immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
I just have, what was the rationale for this? Was there a problem over there?
Got it.
That's,
Traffic.
it has to do with that closure of Spring Road,
Right.
and the people on Malmrose, Raleigh, and Victor, their exit was out to Spring Road, which is now closed, so this will give them the ability to go out to Vassar Road, turn right or left,
Okay,
okay?
yeah, thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas the Recreation Department requested proposals for construction of a pavilion in Greenvale Park, now therefore be it resolved, the Town Board, the Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby award the contract for the construction of a pavilion in Greenvale Park pursuant to the attached request for proposal to Shirk Pole Buildings, East Earl, PA, at the proposal price of $27,600. Be it further resolved, the supervisor is hereby authorized to execute a contract for said construction with Shirk Pole Buildings. Be it further resolved that said action is a Type 2 action requiring no further review. So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
Did we have any local contractors bid on this, or companies? that do this
We
type
put
of
it
work?
at, we actually called a few locals trying to get them to bid on it, but we didn't receive anything from any local guys.
It's a unique kind of a building, like it's a pole building. It's not like a normal,
Should definitely be a big plus for recreation, being our campus held there.
Yeah.
This building's gonna be almost twice the size of what we have now, and the other one's still up. So when the inclement weather comes in, the campers will have a much better place to be.
Yep. Anything else? All those in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Bill?
Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby grant special consent to the following items, to wit. 1, set date for public hearing, stormwater annual report. Number 2, authorize supervisor to sign intermunicipal agreement with the city. Number 3, authorize consent to tax exemption Holiday Inn Express. Number 4, notification, the following claim has been referred to legal. 1, Frosted Apple LLC versus the town. Number 5, notification, liquor license, Juan Murphy's, 796 Main Street. So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby set May 6, 2015 at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter as a matter may come to be heard in the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, as the date, time, and place for a public hearing to accept public comment on a draft storm water annual report. And be it further resolved that the searchable draft storm water annual report prepared by the town engineer shall be filed in the town clerk's office and posted on the town's website for review by any interested party on May 1st, 2015. And be it further resolved that the town board will accept public comment on this draft stormwater annual report commencing on May 6, 2015 and ending on May 15th, 2015 at 4 p.m. And be it further resolved that the contact person for this report is Eric Coleman, Director, Department of Planning, 1 Over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie of Newark, whose email is ehollman@townofpoughkeepsie-ny.gov, And be it further resolved that the town clerk is authorized and directed to immediately publish a notice of the public hearing and the comment period. And be it further resolved, the town board does direct the Director of Municipal Development to review any comments in the draft stormwater annual report and file the final report by May 29th, 2015. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas the O'Neill Dutton Group is proposing to develop 10.82 riverfront acres located in the city of Poughkeepsie and the town of Poughkeepsie, and whereas the development of this property includes a proposed 2.45 acre, 1,400 foot linear park on the Hudson River that is located in both the city and town, and whereas the city has proposed that the town and city enter into an annexed draft intermunicipal agreement relating to the transfer of the 2.45 acres by the applicant O'Neill Group Dutton to the city for use as a park, its development as shown on Exhibit A to the annexed draft intermunicipal agreement, the provision of police and emergency services, and the management of and responsibility for the proposed park, now therefore be resolved, the supervisor or his designee is authorized to execute an intermunicipal agreement with the city of Poughkeepsie in substantially the form as proposed, but subject to such alterations that are required for public safety and planning and development purposes. Those required to assure that the proposed park will be dedicated to passive uses, and that the improvement of the park will not impair the value of the property to the east of it in the town of Poughkeepsie, all after consulting with the Chief of Police and Director of Development, and be it further resolved that the town board finds this a type 2 action requiring no environmental review. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes. Riverfront property in the town, we have very little of it that we can really allow the public to have access. By this intermunicipal agreement, we're giving a piece of very valuable property to the city of Poughkeepsie. Now, I do understand that's for the maintenance, law enforcement, fire, etc. I don't think that's a good enough reason. Number two, under police protection, there's a thing called the criminal procedure law, and it spells out exactly what a police officer can and can't do. And we can't change or move the responsibility for the enforcement of the law by an intermunicipal agreement to any other agency. And fire protection. This city shall have fire protection and emergency medical service for the park. So the park is in the city, but where the apartments are possibly going to go in the town is going to be Fairview?
No, yeah.
That
Well,
doesn't-
town's in Fairview.
This doesn't make any sense from just a common sense point of view, not let alone the criminal procedure law and the responsibility of the police department.
This was that small script.
I would have suggested you had asked your question prior, but do you want to try to clarify, Mr. Carlos?
I'm aware of the issue regarding the jurisdictional, the geographic jurisdictional limitations of police officers and the exceptions for hot pursuit. The reason that I worded this way was so that the supervisor could resume that conversation, which was started a while back with the chief and in particular Captain LeCompte, to see if it could be worked out.
Well, I don't, Counselor, it's in the criminal procedure law. And we cannot change the jurisdiction of our police department.
I don't think that's what we're trying to do, Bill.
Well, that's what this says. However, from time to time, the city may require the assistance of the town for matters not within the city's jurisdiction, including but not limited to arrests other than felony arrest and enforcement of the town's local ordinances. We can't do that.
What can we do? What can we do? Tell me what we can't do.
The criminal procedure law says that the jurisdiction of the law enforcement is in the town police department. And it's,
right.
For example, all violations, that would be vehicle and traffic, zoning, whatever, violations can only be enforced by a town officer.
That's right.
A felony or a misdemeanor can be, an arrest can be made by any police officer from the state of New York for either a felony or a misdemeanor, whether it's committed in his presence or not.
Okay. So what don't you...
Well, who's making the decision and when? And how are we going to do it? And is this for the park? For the Blacktop Macadam? This is not making any sense, and I don't think we should authorize a signature on it until these questions have been absolutely resolved. I don't want to leave it up in the air.
All right. Yeah, I don't mind holding it up at all. You work it out with Mr. Nelson and to the satisfaction of everyone else. And
As to the deeding of property, riverfront property in the town of Poughkeepsie to another.
The town of Poughkeepsie is not giving property to anybody. This property is owned by New York State currently. So the town is not giving, go ahead, come on up, Neil. The town's not giving any waterfront property to anyone, Bill.
So we're going to give responsibility for maintaining it?
Yes.
Yes.
Police protection and
Yes.
fire protection to the city?
Well, I think the thought process
No clearing.
The thought process for the police protection, many times, down in this area, especially where there's a walkway, the type of police protection I think you're going to need, hopefully, is going to be a vagrant through there or maybe someone littering. So the thought process is because of the location of this and the kind of not easily accessible by town patrols is that the city will, move someone along who needs to be moved along. But this clearly says for anything, any arrests or any, let me get to it. The city may require the assistance of town's police department for matters not within city's jurisdiction, meaning in the town, including, but not limited to, arrests or other felony arrests. So in other words, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but what this says is the city, if it has to make an arrest, be it felony or otherwise, will have to call the town, as you stated, to make that arrest. But if it's a matter of, moving someone along or someone being...
Yeah,
Moving
keep in
someone
mind, too,
along-
if I could maybe just offer a clarification. The IMA is about the waterfront property that the state owns. And the conversations going back several years with the city planning board, between city and town planning boards, plus at the staff level, is that if you go back, we've been at this almost 6 years, the original proposal from O'Neill Dutton included development down to the water's edge. And at some point, they woke up and realized they didn't actually own the water's edge, even though it's clearly shown in all the subdivision plats going back to mid-'80s. The problem, when they pulled back their development, you ended up with sort of an unsecured state-owned strip of land of roughly 2.5 acres, most of which is in the city of Poughkeepsie, a little piece up in the town, which is really what this IMA is about for our purposes. My reaction, staff reaction, planning board reaction to O'Neill Dutton was, you, O'Neill Dutton, need to make provisions so that the shoreline is secured, because we have erosion problems down there as well. But more importantly, it's owned by the public, state of New York, and we want to see this treated as a park. And that generated a whole bunch of different conversations. The city in conversations going back probably at least a year and a half ago, agreed to accept the conveyance of a land from the state for purposes of accepting it as park land, so that it would always be available for the public. The town's position was, we don't want to see playgrounds and other vast improvements down there. It's a very narrow strip of land. We want to see a walking path that sort of matches up with the walking paths we have further up along the Marist frontage, along with shoreline stabilization. But so long as the city was willing to accept all of it as a conveyance, and there's this interim step where the state would convey it to O'Neill Dutton would get it into the hands of the city, accept it as dedicated parkland, which is an important distinction, then otherwise the town would be fine with that, because the public would retain access to the frontage. There would be a way to get down to the water with a little path. Plus, we've taken care of the erosion problems. That's sort of the 50,000-foot view. And so the IMA was something that we had always discussed, because you now have the anomalous situation where the city would own all of the 2.5 acres, a portion of which is within the jurisdiction of the town. It's an odd kind of a thing. So, I mean, I'm not going to speak to questions of criminal procedure law and all that, but you do have the city, which would have parkland located within the jurisdiction of the town, they patrol their parks. And I would think that there's probably a concurrent jurisdiction question that arises in this context. And I'm not going to speak any further to, how the IMA was intended to basically put the burden back on the city to be responsible. Ultimately, sort of as a first responder to the extent that they could. And as Supervisor pointed out, the bulk of this project is in the city. It's largely a city project, and the city seems to be supportive of it. There are elements that perhaps for the town's portion maybe aren't so great, but we're kind of at some level allowing the city to sort of lead the charge here. But that's the IMA that you have in front of you is something that is being presented to you. The city has, through the planning board, has asked the town to act on this. At some level, I think it might actually be, it's a little odd that we are being asked to act on the IMA at this point because the city has not even granted approvals for this project, and they don't even meet until next Tuesday to do so. I would have expected to see the IMA as one of the conditions of the city's approvals. But the IMA that you're presented with is roughly the agreement that I would have expected in any event.
Now, this walkway, Neil, and correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a while since we've looked at it. This walkway is envisioned to, one day extend the length, the entire shoreline from, say, Marist College down by the walkway. And
ideally, I mean, we have pedestrian access easements across the Vassar property. They're not defined.
I remember you telling
They
me
are
that.
not defined as they are up at Marist. There were things. There was something that was extracted from Vassar some years ago as part of the boathouse project. They were not thrilled with the idea, but we do have them. My hope is that we would at some point reach agreement to be able to extend a formal walkway to connect with the concrete paths that we have at Marist, which are lovely. It's a nice stroll. So that would be the basic idea. So that from Dutchess Avenue all the way up to Marist, you've got
Quiet Cove,
a connected
possibly,
shoreline.
that type of thing.
I don't think you're going to connect to Quiet Cove. And once you get to the northern end, basically by the water plant, the shoreline, it's too steep, it's rocky. I don't think we'll ever actually achieve a walkway.
Mr. Director, I don't have a problem with the walkway. I'm concerned that they would try to not pay their recreation fees by what Mr. Kaufman said in front of this board, that we'll do the walkway and that'll be in replace
Right,
the
and
fees. But I
this
have
board, the
specific
planning
concerns
board,
with
and I've said the
the
same
way
thing.
this
Right,
is.
no.
Exactly right.
Yep.
So in terms of the overall concept of what should happen down there, that makes sense. This doesn't, and technically we can't do this. So either A, we table this for a conference, or we somehow put this off until such time as this can be done. There's no way that we can give jurisdiction to another department. We're not giving it to a superior jurisdiction. We're not giving it to the sheriff's office or the state police. We're giving it to the same level of law enforcement, where there are sections of the criminal procedure law which specifically say what can and can't be done by a police officer. In his geographical area of employment is the words in the law. So, for example, loitering. There's somebody along this pathway. The city doesn't have jurisdiction for loitering in the town.
I hear what you're saying, Bill, but you know what?
We can't.
Again, that's fine.
I
needs to be hammered
disagree
out.
with that way. And you and I can, I understand that's the law, but you know what? In these days of shared services, in these days of municipalities working together and working in concert, where each municipality, may not have the financial means to have, a 10 or 8 or $12 million police department. This kind of, in my opinion, we can table this if you'd like, but I just want to make my point. These days, in my opinion, of municipal sharing, municipal cooperation, those things need to happen because the taxpayers can't continue to absorb the costs of, wait a minute, that's the line, and there's a loiterer or a drunk, and I can't go over that line to move them along. So, I disagree with that philosophy. I think the state and the laws maybe need to catch up with that, but I think for the good of the residents in the town and the city, we need, better cooperation. And this isn't giving arrest powers to anybody, because as you said, we can't do that, but I think it's in the spirit of municipal cooperation and sharing. We basically surround the city, and so we're border each other in a large extent in that
Todd,
way.
you're right, and the law allows for jurisdictions, for example, a village in a town or a town in another town, to do that. Cities are different, Beacon is different, and Poughkeepsie is different than towns and villages. And if we were to go into a shared services situation with the town of LaGrange, that would be completely different than going into shared services with the city of Poughkeepsie for law enforcement specific things. And if we were to do that, then there would be a whole process we would go through,
I know, and probably take
giving concurrent
Take years
jurisdiction, and it would take a
lots of
long
money.
time, and it would be expensive.
I know.
But as much as I think this is a good idea, I don't think we should,
I don't
our
think-
supervisors sign this the way this is written here. I don't know about the intricacies of fire protection.
It's all
Or
covered
an
under
emergency.
mutual aid.
Yeah, well, if
Yeah.
the city ambulance or the city fire department is on this piece of property for somebody who fell and they're hurt, who pays that bill? It's not,
You can say it.
it's unfortunately, and maybe to the detriment of taxpayers in the future, it's not clear. But I don't think we should enter into an agreement until we're sure of what it
All
says.
right, so I make a motion, we table special consent number 2 till indefinite time in the
Hey,
future.
Neil, before you go, just make sure that there's no way that they can try to supersede and hide from the recreation fees in this at all.
No.
They know that, and they'll try any game they can, because I don't think it's the most trustworthy group that we've ever dealt with. There's no way they're gonna claim this parkland as any free ride to the recreation fees.
Right, well, I mean, look,
I think
it's
Mr.
state-
Safone-
it's public land today, it'll be public land tomorrow. and I
Mr.
agree with you.
Councilman Safone made it very clear to them when they were here before us previously, and they requested break on their recreation fee, that wasn't something the town was going to entertain. So
They keep trying.
they'll continue to try, and you can't blame them for that, but
Second the motion to table.
been pretty consistent. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
On the table.
The tabling.
On the table.
The motion
The
to
ta-
table it passes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Lay it on the table.
I was confused.
It says.
Who read 2?
Okay. Whereas the GMS Hotel Corporation, the owner, operates Holiday Inn Express at the corner of Sharon Drive and Route 9 in the town of Poughkeepsie, and it's planning major renovation to the hotel, and whereas the owner has advised that will seek a Dutchess County IDA exemption from the sales tax on the material which will be purchased and incorporated into hotel as part of renovation, and whereas it appears that the total benefit to the town will be derived from the renovation to the Holiday Inn Express at Sharon Drive will exceed the loss of sales tax revenue to the town from the project, now therefore be resolved that the supervisor or designee is authorized to document the fact that the town of Poughkeepsie has no objection to the owner receiving a Dutchess County IDA sales tax exemption for the purpose of renovation to the Holiday Inn Express at Route 9 and Sharon Drive. So moved.
Second.
motion and second, any discussion?
Yes, I just
Go ahead, Joe.
want to ask, is IDA managing the sales tax and all the receipt for the material of the construction, or is town of Poughkeepsie?
We're not, I don't have an answer to that question. What the hotel has asked the IDA to consider is an exemption from sales tax for the improvements, and things like, I think, carpet and tile and,
Right, correct.
upgrades. So what IDA has asked us for is a letter basically saying, look, we have no opposition to the hotel, the Holiday Inn Express in this case, seeking this exemption. I don't know whether they'll approve it or not. Beyond that, we won't be involved in that process. They'll still have to come to the town for any building permits they need for the renovations or anything like that. It doesn't, alleviate them from that.
So IDA has not made any, they made any?
I don't think they've made any commitment to
Right.
them at this point, not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I think this is the direction they should go, because you know what? a lot of times they make all these deals and they're getting money and nothing gets done. These guys don't get a dime unless they spend money. I mean, which is better. The more they spend, the better break they're gonna get. They get a little sales tax break. Basically, the only one that's gonna benefit is the two cities. They're gonna lose out, not us on that. And this is actually, they should do more things like this. They'll do them sort of like they had the special plans that we had years ago, and the one we just passed the other year, 485Bs.
Yeah.
Give them a break for doing some work in the town, you know. They should work more along this line.
You know, and I agree, and from our point of view, it's in our interest to make sure this remain, you know, keep the flagship name. We don't want it to become, you know, necessarily, you know, no-name hotel, and it's in our best interest to make sure it's a name brand. The renovations are good things, again, for the town, and we do feel that we'll get more from, you know, building permits and so on from the renovations than we will in the sales tax, so. I don't know if they'll end up getting approval or not, but it does worth our while to not stand in the way, you know, let the IDA make their decision. Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, and number 4 is a claim that's been referred to legal, and number 5 is a liquor license. That?
On Main Street, and that's it. It brings us to the end of our agenda. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for public comment on town issues.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone who'd like to address the board? Yes, Mr. Armstrong.
First, I'm glad to see that you tabled this particular item down at Dutton's, because my experience in the organizations I've been involved with, if things aren't spelled out to the letter, somebody's going to find a way around it, and somebody's going to look for a way around it. And somebody loses when that happens. The other subject I have, I talked with Mr. Carlos about it, the Spring Road repairs that are being done. And he's had many complaints from people in the neighborhood where I live off of Kerr Road, Country Club Estates, which is a dead-end development. And the road signage that was up there to tell the people that this road is a dead end was very poor. People have been coming in there by, like trains coming through. And it's a mile in all the way to the end and a mile back out. And they just keep going until they find out all the roads are dead ends. They put a little better signage up today, but it just says no outlet, and it's only 4 inches by 12 inches. And most people, no outlet, don't really know what that means, I don't think, because they're still coming in. Not as bad. Hopefully they'll get to know about it after a week or two time that they keep making the same mistake. But that's why I asked the question last week when the gentleman was here explaining what was going to happen. Was there going to be a way for you to know who was the people in the development and using Spring Road and, you know, well, we'll just watch it. Well, I didn't see anybody watching anything. Coming in from Route 9 and can't get through, so they run into Kerr Road, going past the school, by the way. Luckily, the kids are in school off the road during the day. But the time the kids are out running around before school and after school, these cars are breezing through there like crazy. It's starting to slow down. Hopefully it'll get better as people learn it. But I think when these things start, you can't express enough of these people to make sure the signage is there for people to understand it. And there was nothing there to really let them understand it. And it's foolish as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
We've had several conversations with the engineer who was here at our last meeting, and they are going to work on improving the signage, moving it. One of the problems that's going on here is the signs on Route 9 saying that Spring Road is closed are not effective enough. People are making the turn. They don't even see the barricades till they're on Spring Road. So they're doing U-turns in front of the barricades, or they're making a left and going down Kerr Road. To do something about the speeding, I spoke with the police department today. They're going to put that radar sign that we have that says the speed, and they're going to put it on the straightaway before school, and we'll see if that has an impact. And if that doesn't have an impact, then they'll have to put a car there, and people will get invitations to talk with our judges. There's no other way that we can do it. We have to watch out for the kids. And I think Mr. Armstrong is right as we become knowledgeable of the traffic pattern, people will adapt to that. It's just this first part that's being an absolute nightmare. And I have a great deal of sympathy with some of the people, especially the people on Kerr Road and Ronnie Lane, Debbie Court, because they're getting a significant amount of turning traffic on their driveways, on their lawns. I mean, it's not nice down there right now.
I do agree. I think it's temporary as people realize that's closed.
Yeah.
Or go different routes.
Yes, it's the learning pattern, and it will happen. And it'll take a little bit of time, but it will.
Yeah, being so close to Route 9 Spring Road where it crosses, they've done not a horrible, not a great job. Even on the other side, 9, you come up the hill, there's nothing coming out of the Galleria that tells you it's closed. So if you get in that lane of traffic, you're stuck in that lane of traffic, you go across and everybody's just turning around. I don't know, tonight, looking for signs, you didn't see any signs that says Spring Road.
When you come north on 9, and you're going to make the turn into Spring Road by Walgreens, the last construction sign you see says end detour. Doesn't say anything. Then you make the turn, you're in the turn and out of the turn and onto Spring Road, and in the distance you see the barricades. So you go up to Walgreens or you go down and do a bat turn. None of this is safe doing this way. So they've been very receptive to us. I've had multiple conversations with them. And I think in time it will be fine, because we're going to live with this till August.
Yes, sir.
The Garmo goes down.
Good evening, Dave Wexler, 56 Brookland Farmers Road. I'm here to address the same issue we're talking about right here. I had some prepared remarks first, so if they're repetitive to Mr. Armstrong said, I'm apologizing.
no
but
problem.
I just wanted to, I'm here to express my sincere disappointment, Mr. Carlos, to you, to Mark Pfeiffer, and to the contractor, SunUp. Did you not distribute this letter to us, the residents?
Yes,
Okay, and what is the date on this letter that the construction is supposed to start?
the 16th,
And what is today's date?
15th.
And when did the construction start?
That's one of the problems. That was
Okay.
the date they were supposed to start.
Okay, so that right away is bad communication, okay? On your letter also, it states that the no left and no right turn for Vassar Road will be suspended, what already is suspended. Didn't you just pass an amendment to amend that?
It's because of the timing that they gave us.
Understand, but once again,
I
your
did
letter
that.
is incorrect.
I understand.
Is it
that.
incorrect?
I did that letter on the information I had on the day I did that.
Understood, but then you never got back to us, the residents, to say that this information is incorrect in any way, did you?
No.
Okay, so there's two major things on this thing right now that are incorrect that the residents in our development are abiding by. I woke up Monday morning at 9 a.m. to make that left turn out of the development to find that that was no longer an option. Okay, that's bad. Okay, I live at 56 Brookland Farm Road. I live on the last house on the dead end. Okay, the last house. On Monday, just because I had this for a record, because I did call the town police, 93 cars in an hour and 15 minutes came all the way through 1 mile for a dead end to figure out there's no way to go because nobody was smart enough to put up a sign that said no outlet or no access to Vassar Road. Nobody. I sat there and watched 2 cars almost rear-end my wife and my daughter because nobody did anything about it. I called the town police. They came to my house. They sat there for 5 minutes and watched 8 cars try to do the same thing. The officer said to me, we got a problem. He says, I'm going to contact the town highway department. That's Monday. Tuesday, I'm off. I wake up. 73 cars in a 1 hour time frame try to do the same move, come all the way down 1 mile, all the way into a development, only to find out there's a dead end to go all the way back out again. Stupid people, but they're in our neighborhood. And like Mr. Armstrong is saying, they are not abiding by the 30 per hour speed limit. They're flying out of there because now they're mad because they got all the way a mile in and they're like, where am I going? Nobody told them where to go. Nobody told them how to get out. And they're sitting there and they're making illegal U-turns and they're not doing it safely. Once again, I called the town highway department. Mr. Pfeiffer called me at 5:40, 5:50 on Tuesday night. And he left me a message on my machine, and his following words were, Mr. Wexler, I am very sorry for the inconvenience you are going through. We did not realize how much of an impact this would have on your community. Signs are on order in order to put up to allow residents to know how to get around this construction. Signs are on order. How long did you know this construction was going to take place?
The day of the
The
date.
signs aren't on the responsibility of the town of Poughkeepsie.
No, but I'm just saying, in general.
No, I understand,
In general,
but
when
I
you're
just-
doing a project and you're looking at project management, I wasn't here for the meeting last week, so I'm supposing the gentleman you asked questions of last week had a lot of information for you. How are they not prepared for a project
Yeah,
this
it's-
magnitude that's going to close down a major thoroughfare, which is
It
the
is a
main way
major,
people
yeah.
get to the Galleria? How are they not going to have signs up? You can go, I disagree with what you said about Route 9. I agree with Mr. Basley said. I come from New Hamburg train station every day to my house on Brookline Farm Road. There is no sign telling you that Spring Road is closed. Not one.
You're right,
There is no sign north or south on Route 9 telling you that Spring Road is closed.
you're right. And
So
up
how
until
does a
today-
contractor do business in our town without making it safe for our town?
You're exactly right, because they can do what they want
No,
until
they
we
can't. You got to enforce our
until we
laws, don't
react,
we?
until we react to it. There was no sign for Jackson Road. All the traffic coming in from the southeast part of our county in Jackson Road, underneath the airport, across the bridge,
Mm-hmm.
there was no sign. They moved the sign today because of the comments we've made to them.
They put up two little signs in our road, on Kerr Road, that
I
says
saw
no
them.
outlet. Mr. Armstrong is not making this up. It is maybe 2 inches high and about 6 inches long.
You're right.
Okay?
I saw it today.
And it's happening again. I mean, I don't want to sit outside my house and count cars every night, but I also want to be able to sit outside my house and enjoy my property. And you're not doing anything. I understand it's not you specifically, but if you've gotten all these complaints, and Mark Pfeiffer knows about this, and the town police know about it, why are we putting up a radar detector for these people to figure out they're going too fast? I live in that development. There's a cop half the time who sits in that tennis court right there waiting for people to come by. Where is he or she? Why are we not enforcing it? That's a school right there, an elementary school. And these people are coming in and they're getting, excuse my language, pissed off because they're lost. They're idiots. They're going down a dead-end street. They have no idea where they're going anyway. That's the kind of people we got driving through our neighborhoods, and then they're going out in an angry way. So I'm here because I've gone for 2 days. I didn't bother you because ultimately I didn't see it as a town issue until I got done with Mr. Pfeiffer, and he was very nice about it. But when he tells me that signs are on order, and then I come out today and I see these two little things that say no outlet, seriously, any one of us could have went to FedEx Kinko's and printed those bad boys up and did that.
You're
That's
right.
that's not what's responsibility in our town. And Sunup's the contractor, they should be held responsible for this.
You're right. And everything you've said, only without the vehemence, I have said to the contractor, to the engineer, and I started doing it when we first found out that they were going to close it this way. There are some real problems with that. And all I can tell you is they have responded. Have they responded adequately? No. Are the signs on the front of Kerr Road correct? No. It needs to say no outlet, no thoroughfare, local traffic only, road closed.
No access to Vassar Road. You see that all the time. I mean, you have to let these people
Yeah, I
know
really-
they're not from our neighborhood, right?
No,
They're cutting through.
yeah.
They're from Beekman. They're from everywhere, Hopewell. They're cutting through. They're going to the
I
Galleria.
think by the time they get to Kerr Road, it's too late. I want to keep them from going on to Spring.
Right, that's
because
what I'm saying. There's nothing on Route 9. And you did say before there was a sign north of Route 9. There's nothing. The only thing that says, you're right, it says end detour.
End detour.
But there's nothing that says there's construction. There's nothing.
The other sign is down by Burger King.
And it says Spring Road detour.
Yeah.
That means nothing to me. And I live there.
You are saying everything that I have said repeatedly now to these people.
Understood, but I'm here to tell you that it would helpful if your information was correct. Okay? And I've never seen I'm only 50 years old, but I've never seen a construction project start 3 days in advance.
Well, it did.
We're always complaining they're running late and they're not starting
Actually,
on time.
it's been about 7 years in the making, but.
You know what I'm saying? But they
Yeah, I
started
hear
3
what you're
days in
saying, yeah.
advance with no notification.
Well, Mr. Carlos is working with the engineering company and, you know, trying to resolve the traffic issues. Hopefully, as Mr. Basley said, once word gets out and people start to understand that Spring Road is closed to all traffic, you know, it's a bit of a learning curve, but he is also working with the engineering company to make sure signage is adequate. And I think once they get onto Kerr Road, it's too late. So I think the objective is to keep them from turning onto Spring from Route 9, unless they're going into those plazas.
But like I said, there's no way for you to know that at this point. And the other thing is, like I said, that radar detector, it means nothing. You know that and I know that. It doesn't stop people. It slows you down for a second. You take your foot off the gas, you look around, you don't see anybody, you keep going. And you're talking about a radar detector going in. These people are speeding going out. There needs to be a cop there. We have plenty of officers that can help out during the school hours just to make sure our kids are safe. That's an elementary school in there. That's not a high school. It's not a junior high school. These kids, okay, it's not about the kids walking. It's about the amount of parents that are coming out of there. That stop sign is about 200 feet back from embedded in the school, and then those people have to come forward, and there's going to be a head-on. And putting just a radar detector is not the solution.
That's
a
not
police
just the radar
officer's
detector.
solution.
Doesn't that collect data?
does.
So we can
Need
see how many cars are going through there, so we
Right,
can
but it
actually get a
doesn't-
cop there at the right
Hopefully,
time.
hopefully we can keep the cars out of there.
Well, that's what it is, but you
That's
should
the
be-
objective. We want to get the
You
car.
want to talk about making money
We
for
don't
this,
want
for
them
this
in
town?
there.
Put a cop there for about 2 hours, you're going to make yourself a couple $100.
Bill, I have a question. I don't know if we have a control to stop the construction until the contract is liable or accountable for putting signs. No, can we stop the construction?
I don't know the answer.
And-
I don't think we can
I don't
at
think we
this
want to
point.
either.
No,
This
It's a
one won't
federal
come into it.
contract.
No.
Spring Road's torn up. We wanted them to finish, but
I'm just, I don't know, I haven't been there, but I'm just for the sake of the residents there, that they're going through a mess. I mean, again, the contract should be liable for that. They should have the signs and should be prepared and should be.
If you have a safety issue, you have a responsibility to keep us safe.
Mr. Wexler, you got to come to the microphone.
If we deem it's a safety issue, you have the responsibility to keep us safe. If that means closing it down for one day, for them to put up the accurate signage so that people do not get hurt and know what's going on, then you have that responsibility as our representatives to do that. Don't just, and I'm not being rude, but don't just sit there and wait for something to happen.
Now, you are being rude.
Not at all.
And I want to tell you something. I've been on this board 14 years,
Yes.
and I don't think anybody's ever addressed us the way you have tonight. Now, I understand you're upset, but you're being rude.
How am
You're
I
being
being
rude because you're being offensive, you're being accusatory. Do you think any one of us don't want this project to go smoothly? This has been a project that's been in the work for 10 years.
Not at all. All I did was point out two
So you made your point.
in his email.
You
in his
made your
letter.
point. You
That's
did
all.
it right.
That's all I
Mr.
did.
Councilman Basley put out, or Councilman Carlos put out an email to try to notify all the residents of something that was going on.
Understood.
I think instead of being beaten up because the work started 2 days earlier than he put in his letter, maybe
Give him
someone would say,
credit for the
geez.
fact that he
Now, hold on.
notified you in the first place, because you know what? Sometimes contracts change.
Understand, but I pointed out was a mistake that he said you can already make the left or right turn already. That was
No,
suspended.
but you complained about the day that it started, a day earlier. That, to me, that's a little offensive.
I think you've made your point, and you've made a point of being a Councilman Carlos, which probably was the intent you had when you came up. So the point is, we certainly aren't here giving of our time and effort to try to make your road a nightmare. I mean, this is a important project for all of us. It's in our best interest to make sure it's controlled, it's signed properly, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that happens.
And Bill's going to prioritize it too. I know that he understands your concern, and I know he's going to personally work on that for you, because he doesn't want to see anybody upset. It's really what it boils down to. We promise you that.
Appreciate the time. That's all I
Got
have
it.
to say.
Thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I'm sure if you get a hold of Morrow, he'll get it cut down there. I'm sure if you get a hold of Morrow, he'll put it
Oh, yeah.
Hi, my
Hi.
name's Colin Cute.
Hi, Colin.
I live at 31 New Hamburg Road, and I'm going to read a letter on behalf of residents of New Hamburg, on behalf of the people who have signed the
Sure.
letter. Dear Supervisor Tancredi and members of the town board, we appreciate the March 24th, 2015 letter sent by the town of Poughkeepsie, Office of Municipal Development, to the attorneys representing New Hamburg Terminal Corp., i.e. Botini Fuel, regarding the noise and commercial truck traffic issues affecting our neighborhood. As the town board is aware, our concerns extend beyond mere noise and traffic issues, as we are deeply concerned about the impact the intensified operation of the New Hamburg terminal is having on the health, safety, and welfare of New Hamburg residents and visitors. We are writing to ask that the town set a deadline of May 30th, 2015 for Botini Fuel to respond to its March 24th, 2015 letter. While we understand the town would like to provide Botini Fuel with an opportunity to respond, we fear that without a hard deadline for response, New Hamburg will continue to suffer from the deleterious impact heavy industry can cause on a small residential hamlet. We believe a deadline of May 30th, 2015 would give Botini Fuel ample time to respond and make all agreed upon changes prior to the end of the summer season. In addition, we request the town take immediate steps to fully enforce the town's noise ordinance with respect to violative noise generated by the oil barges used to fill the tanks at the New Hamburg terminal between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. Given the type of noise generated by the oil barges and the length of time for which such noise persists, we request that the town board instruct the Town of Poughkeepsie Police Department to shut down filling operations during overnight hours. Unlike other 24-hour businesses from which overnight noises are typically sporadic and at a low volume, for example, a 24-hour convenience store or gas station, the oil barge deliveries generate overnight noises that are constant and at a high volume for a period of up to 10 hours, and additionally cause the neighborhood to smell heavily of petroleum. Please also note that if other businesses operating in New Hamburg, for example, White's Marina or the New Hamburg Yacht Club, both of which were in existence prior to the enactment of the town's zoning laws, but were included in the R-NH district as permitted uses. If those businesses generated equivalent noise levels during overnight hours, such operations would not be tolerated and would be required to cease. All businesses should be held equally responsible under the law. We appreciate your efforts in facilitating communications between your office and Botini Fuel regarding the issues their business operations have on New Hamburg. In the interest of protecting our health, safety, and welfare, we request the town board set a deadline for response to the March 24, 2015 letter, and to instruct the Town of Poughkeepsie Police Department to shut down such violative noise levels emanating from the New Hamburg terminal during overnight hours. Respectfully, residents of New Hamburg. And if I could, I'd like to just read the names of the signees
Sure.
so that they are on record.
Sure.
I think just for brevity, I'll skip their addresses, but
Yeah,
they're all in New
Your
Hamburg.
addresses off, just.
Andrea Sayago, Edward Sayago, Michael Joyce, Marjorie Shaner, Ken Lutters, Greg Freeman, Joan Freeman, Diane Levitt, Rick Levitt, David H. Cullen, Kathleen K. Cullen, Dale S. Cunningham, Carolyn Geyer, Stacy Messler, Colin Cute, Terry Kowalski, Kathy Kowalski, Susan Barbarisi, Sarah Hill, Charlie Hill, Roger Higgins, Patricia Higgins, Sarah Johnson, Joanna Corby, James Jolly, and Polly Myram.
Thank you, Colin. I think, I've probably said this before, but I'll say it again. I think that residents of Hamburg have been very patient and very understanding. I think a May 30th deadline, certainly in my opinion, is not, I think it's plenty of time. So I would agree. I know we sent a letter to the Botini's attorney, and I think Mr. Nelson had some conversation this week with their attorney. So we hope to get a response from them. But I would agree. I think May 30 is plenty of time, and I would be very disappointed if we haven't heard back from them in response to our letter by then. I would agree with that.
Okay, we'll keep our fingers crossed. I was going to make one observation, and Mr. Lepore.
Yes, sir.
Lepore, he likes that.
How'd I do? Okay,
Good.
all right. I noticed that you questioned regarding the previous matter whether that contractor could be shut down because his signage was incorrect. And while it's a very different circumstance, it's the same concept fundamentally. Like, if you're not abiding by the rules, should you be ticketed and allowed to continue, or should you be stopped? So I just thought it was an interesting coincidence that happened right before I came up here.
And Colin, along the line what you said, I saw your email earlier in the week, looking for signatures and everything, and we discussed it with Todd. And I think that time frame is definitely by far, there should be no problem that anybody could answer that. I mean, it's not that hard, and we've pushed for phone calls and pushed things forward. And in the meantime, they're still looking on some of the other issues that we've addressed and that were addressed in the first meeting we had up at Town Hall with Todd. They're still investigating some of the other things that we can look into to keep going forward. Nobody's sitting still. Everybody's still working. We've talked to Neil and Jim and Todd quite a few times. We have other meetings. We're up here every week. So we haven't stopped. Even though, there's not a lot of emails going back and forth, it's constantly trying to work a lot of things out before even talking to them. We want to make sure we get it right. And it's slowing down, but it's not stopped. It's far from stopped. It's not close, but we want to get everything done, and we have to get done prior to it kicking back off, in the fall.
Exactly right, because it's slowing down and the temperatures are rising, and there's another heating season a couple months away.
Yeah, we've got a short window here soon. Thank you for
very
coming
much.
in. Thank you for the letter.
Do you have an extra copy of that letter?
We have
You do.
several copies, yes.
Thank you.
Do you want me to just give them
Sure, yeah.
my name in first, or what do you
No,
want?
did you just want to give us the letters? You want to say something?
I do.
Sure, yeah, you can give us the letters, yeah.
Here, I'm just
No
gonna-
problem.
I think there's 9 of them, right?
You just get a little pass them out if you
Board members, a clerk, and a lawyer.
9 sounds good.
I won't just
8, I have one.
Blair, I promise.
I appreciate that. Especially from whence it comes.
If you want, just hand them to Jim, we'll disperse them ourselves.
That's what I'm gonna do. I think that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andrea Sayago.
Hi, Andrea.
I live at 4 Main Street in New Hamburg, and I just wanted to, start by saying thank you to the attention that the town board has paid to our situation in our hamlet. I know that we are a persistent bunch.
No, that's
And
good.
I don't.
You are persistent, but that's good.
No, and I think it's important to a lot of people.
It
And
is.
I wanted to just reiterate, and the point of reading the letter was to make it clear that it's not just a small group of people that are feeling this way and have issues and are concerned about what's going on. I think it's widespread among many of the residents, and this was just a small effort in terms of getting names, and I think that we would be able to get many more if necessary. And I just wanted to, I'm glad to hear that you guys are willing to set a hard deadline and are working towards that. And Mr. Baisley is correct that the traffic has not stopped. I mean, we still see a lot of 18-wheelers. It's interesting. I mean, the smaller trucks are less, but the 18-wheelers seem to be going along as usual.
Yeah.
And, I can say that the barge situation is something that really concerns me also, because the noise that comes from that machine that is pumping the oil is a really awful noise. And it's not a noise that can fade into the background. It's something that is highly disruptive. And
So at midnight or 1 a.m.
oh my gosh, it's hard. And if you've been, the last time that we had an issue with it, it was for me a bad week, and I've been working a lot, and I was like ready to pull my hair out. But I do know that the police have been very kind and responsive and coming down. But I do know that they don't take the next step to shut them down, even though they're repeating to continue with the noise for hours on end. And so I'm really hoping that the town will consider asking them to shut down, because it's not an equitable application of the law. And when you make exceptions to a law, where do you draw the line? I mean, there are businesses that operate 24 hours. I don't argue with the fact that there are businesses that can coexist in a residential community on a 24-hour basis and not be disruptive. But this particular business happens to generate a large amount of or a loud noise on a constant level. And it can't coexist in that way, at least not during the overnight hours. And so it's really, to make an exception because it's a business or a 24-hour business isn't a fair application of the law. And again, creating exceptions to rules is also something that can be difficult, because then where do you draw the line? What's the next exception? And then the next exception. And so we really ask that the town consider having them stop in the event that they are generating that noise during the overnight hours.
And we will consider that. I want to speak to our attorney about the legalities of trying to do that. It's not that we've made an exception for them. I don't think we've ever shut down a business during the night hours. We do continue to ticket the Botinis as our police show up If in their discretion, it's a loud noise, or I forget exactly how it's worded, but if it's an unnecessary loud noise, they do ticket the.
I'm ad-libbing from the regulation, but I recall that there's a section that says that if the noise persists for a period of 30 minutes after they've been ticketed the first time, a second summons can be issued, and so on and so on. And I'm wondering, why is it that, the town knows that they're going to be there and continue to be there and not turn it off and not stop? Why successive tickets are not issued to drive home the point that it's going to get really expensive for you guys to continue to do that? Mm-hmm. And effectively give them the choice. And hopefully the economics of it will end up causing them to choose differently. And the successive ticketing as a separate, a summons each time, I think would be an effective way to try and do that without having to actively shut them down.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely look into that.
Thank you so much for your time, all of you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir. You don't make many of our meetings, so while you're here, you might as well come on up and say something.
Good evening. My name is David Cullen. I live on Rabbit Island in New Hamburg, where I've been a resident for approximately 35 years. I want to underscore what Andrea and Colin have said tonight and indicate to you that in those 35 years, we have never seen the level of traffic coming in and out of the Bottini terminal that we've seen in the past 2 years. On March 26th, I sent a letter to Supervisor Tancredi informing him of a meeting of the New Hamburg Neighborhood Association that was held on March 24th with over 40 residents of New Hamburg attending. Understanding that there are only 100 homes in our hamlet, that's a remarkable turnout on a cold March evening. They expressed their concern over this dramatic and continuing increase in commercial truck traffic rolling through our streets and over our bridges, including our recently repaired bridge on Bridge Street, which Todd Tancredi attended the opening of. And that the recent estimates indicate that since December 1st, 2014, an estimated 25 to 30 million gallons of petroleum products have been transported through our hamlet. The hamlet, as you know, is a tiny residential community which was created by a 175-year-old subdivision design, and there's no way that that design can accommodate that level or that magnitude of hazardous and polluting activity. The issue, obviously, for the residents is the one that has already been outlined for you, and that is whether the town will enforce the current laws and regulations applicable to zoning, vehicle weights, limits, noise of hours of operation, and other environmental and safety-related regulations. This is obviously a concern because, as we understand it, other terminals in the mid-Hudson Valley area have been shut down for various reasons. We are hoping that our presence and our respectful bringing this to your attention will enable the town to act and bring to resolution the negotiations with Bottini about the concerns of all the residents of our hamlet. We appreciate your efforts and thank you for the opportunity to come here and express our points of view.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Anybody else? See no one, I make a motion to resume the rules.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Jay?
Be resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby adjourned executive session to consider the following matters to wit. 1, personal matters to wit, a meeting to discuss the employment history, hiring, firing, promotion, demotion of a particular individual who need not be identified at this time. Confidential communications between the attorney and his client, the town board based on attorney-client privilege, and be it further resolved, there will be no action appropriate money. So moved.
Second.
Town board, we have a motion to go into executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Town board adjourns to executive session at 8:23 p.m.